Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to stay updated with all our latest content. Join us and never miss out on the excitement. Cattle are grazing at the farm as Darrell, Andrea, Dale, and Carol arrive with the RV and the rest of their belongings while Shane, T-Dog, and Glenn help Hershel's family collect rocks for Otis' funeral. Rick and Lori sit at their son Carl's bedside while he recovers from surgery that he had in the previous episode to remove bullet fragments from his abdomen. He wakes up briefly and asks whether Sophia is all right. Not wanting to cause further distress to Carl, Rick tells him that Sophia is fine. After everyone has settled, Hershel leads a funeral for Otis, piling his grave with the rocks they'd collected earlier, and asks Shane, wearing a pair of Otis overalls, to offer some form of eulogy since he was the last one to see him alive. Knowing the truth behind Otis' death, Shane initially tries to avoid having to make such a speech. But Patricia, Otis' wife, begs to know that his death had meaning, pointing out that Shane was the only one who shared Otis' final moments. Shane starts his eulogy, stating that Otis sacrificed his life to help save Carl. As Shane speaks, flashbacks of Otis's final moments are shown, and it is clear that these final moments are vastly different from what Shane describes to the group. After the funeral, Hershel's eldest daughter, Maggie, brings a map of the county to assist in coordinating the search for Sophia. But Hershel won't allow Rick and Shane to head off the farm on account of Shane's ankle, and Rick having given 3 units of blood for Carl the day before. Darrell decides he'll head out to look for Sophia on his own. Shane suggests finally teaching people how to shoot, though Hershel disapproves of guns being carried around on his property. Rick agrees with Hershel, recognizing that he and the others are guests of Hershel and his family and must respect their rules. Shane reluctantly hands over his gun, and Andrea begrudgingly follows after him. Nonetheless, Rick is able to negotiate that Dale continues to serve as a lookout, keeping an eye out for nearby walkers. The group agrees amongst themselves that if they find Sophia and she's been bitten, that they'll do what needs to be done. Maggie states that medical supplies are running low, and she volunteers to take a trip to the local pharmacy a mile down the road to gather more. Rick suggests that Glenn accompany her, describing him as the group's go-to-town expert. Shane finds Lori by the RV, and they have a brief and slightly awkward conversation about Carl's health. "Did you mean it?" "When you said stay," Shane wonders, referring to their moment at Carl's bedside the night before C saved the last one. "I meant it," Lori says, standing back from him. He settles in to clean guns at a picnic table, and Andrea joins him, eager to learn once and for all. After Maggie informs Glenn of their upcoming trip to town, Dale asks her about water wells on the farm. Maggie explains that the second well was used for the cattle, but the water is just as pure as the well used for the house. She tells Dale and T-Dog to take what they need. She excuses herself to saddle the horses for the trip into town, much to Glenn's surprise. Rick tries to tell Darrell he doesn't need to head out on his own, and they can wait until the whole group is ready to go tomorrow. "You don't owe us anything," he tells Darrell, who responds coolly, "My other plans fell through." As Darrell heads into the woods, Hershel joins Rick outside. When Rick offers to set up his group's campsite by the barn to give the Green family more privacy, Hershel says that they're better off closer to the house. He tells Rick that he doesn't want his group to think they're welcome on the farm permanently. "Once you find this girl and your boy's fit for travel, I expect you'll move on. We need to be clear on that," he tells him. As Glenn stares at Maggie in control of the 2 horses as they prepare to head into town, Lori pulls him aside and gives him a piece of paper with a list of supplies she needs him to get for her. In addition, Lori hands him a second piece of paper and asks him to obtain a special item for her from the feminine hygiene section of the pharmacy. She also asks that Glenn be discreet about acquiring it. Meanwhile, T-Dog and Dale walk out to one of the wells to get water for the group, and T-Dog asks Dale to forget about what he said on the highway the day before. "I'm not weak, and I'm not a coward. I don't know what that was, where it came from. That wasn't me." Dale obliges him easily, stating that he couldn't get a word out of him all day, and says he doesn't know what he's talking about. T-Dog smiles, grateful he's alive, as he pumps water from the well. Dale then notices a hole in the planks covering the nearby well shaft, and he moves closer to investigate. His face falls as the sound of lapping water is mixed in with the familiar growls of a walker. He stares at T-Dog, and just as he is about to take a drink of the water from the well, Dale knocks the ladle of water to the ground and warns him not to drink it. T-Dog looks at him confused. As Glenn, Maggie, Andrea, Lori, and Shane gather around the well, a bloated, wet zombie reaches helplessly for them from the bottom. Andrea jokes about the walker having been in the well long enough to grow gills as Dale comments, "Looks like we've got ourselves a swimmer." Rick and Hershel survey a map over a picturesque lookout on his farm and take a break from discussing how to search for Sophia. They talk, and it eventually turns to God. Rick admits he's mostly faithless, and Hershel tries to assure him that God had a hand in him waking up from his coma, finding his family in the chaos, and for Carl surviving being shot. "Tells me God's got a strange sense of humor," Rick replies. The group discusses options to deal with the walker in the well, agreeing that shooting the walker in its place would certainly pollute the drinking water. They all agree that they need to coax the walker out of the well. The group attempts to bait it with canned ham. When it fails, they realize that it will obviously not eat anything that's not fresh. "There's a reason the dead didn't come back and start raiding our cupboards," Lori muses. Realizing that nothing short of live bait will suffice, they decide to send Glenn down the well. They plan to have him fasten a rope around the walker so that it can be pulled out alive and without contaminating the water before they kill it. Maggie hates the idea, but knows it's the only plan they can think of to get the walker out alive and keep the well's water clean. She stands watch as the group slowly lowers Glenn down the well, using the water pump to provide anchorage for the rope. Glenn almost succeeds in getting the creature harnessed without it noticing him or the ropes, but the water pump breaks under Glenn's weight. This causes him to fall within reach of the now alert and frantic walker. Glenn screams at the group to pull him out, and they scramble to regain physical advantage of the rope. Eventually, they are able to pull a shaken and horrified Glenn back up. Catching his breath while the group views the attempt as a failure, Glenn smiles, revealing that he was able to secure the rope around the walker amidst the chaos. Daryl finds an abandoned home in the woods, taking note that a can of sardines had recently been consumed. He also finds a makeshift bed inside a closet, only big enough for someone short, like Sophia. He calls her name as he walks outside, but he stops in front of a pair of white flowers in the grass. Back at the farm, the group is pulling the walker to the top of the well, but in its water-bloated state, it gets stuck on the sides of the well. As they pull harder, the walker splits in half, with the bottom part of its body and most of its entrails falling back into the well. Clearly disappointed at the wasted effort, T-Dog lets out his frustration, destroying the walker's brain with a pickaxe. "Good thing we didn't do anything stupid, like shoot it," he mumbles, walking off. The group decides to seal the well. Shane and Andrea head to the highway to comfort Carol, who has been waiting all day by a painted sign on a car windshield with a collection of food supplies for Sophia. Carol is losing hope that Sophia will be found alive and doesn't want to hear any comforting words. She tearfully leaves the highway with Andrea and Shane, who are looking at a potential place where they can have target practice. Shane, limping heavily because of his ankle injury, describes to Andrea how you just have to trust your instincts when it comes to protecting your life with a gun. Describing without using names how he had to leave Otis to die for the greater good. "How do you do that?" Andrea asks, and he tells her, "Turn off a switch, the one that makes you scared. Odds are there's always somebody else counting on you. There's nothing easy about taking a man's life, but when you get it done, you have to forget it." Admitting he hasn't quite reached that stage, Andrea says comfortingly, "But you're getting there," though she has no idea he's talking about Otis. Glenn is trying awkwardly to initiate a conversation with Maggie as they ride on the horses into town. She's quiet, having never seen a walker killed up close before because she's always been protected at the farm. After reaching the local pharmacy, Glenn hands her the master list Lori gave him and says he's just going to look around and see what's worth grabbing. As Maggie walks away to search, he pulls Lori's special list from his pocket, finding the feminine hygiene section. He shuffles through a few random boxes on the floor, finding a true blue pregnancy test. As he reads the box and realizes why Lori needs it, his face falls. Maggie finds him, and he quickly stuffs the pregnancy test in his bag before she can see it. Maggie questions why he is in this section of the store, and Glenn grabs a random box from the floor to cover his tracks. Rick asks Hershel to reconsider sending the group off his farm once Carl has recovered and Sophia's been found. Hershel is reluctant to let him, but says he'll consider it if his group respects his rules. Rick tells Hershel that he regrets lying to his son about Sophia that morning when he asked if she was all right. And Hershel tells Rick that he admires his relationship with his son. He says that his own father was a loveless drunk who did not earn his presence at his deathbed, or any love from Hershel throughout his life. He assures Rick that he believes he is a good father to Carl. Rick finds Lori in Carl's room, and Rick is amused by this, and he gives his sheriff hat to Carl to symbolize their shared experience. They exchange "I love yous," and Carl soon goes back to sleep. Having given up his hat, Rick continues to deconstruct from the lawful man of his existence pre-apocalypse, taking off his uniform and putting away his badge in a drawer at Hershel's home. Lori comes in as he is doing so and looks at his gunshot scar. She hugs him supportively, asking him, "Are you putting them away?" He responds by shutting the drawer. See you in the next video.